Hi, good evening, morning, afternoon, ladies. I hope this video finds you well. I'm here with Erika. I actually never asked you how to pronounce your last name. How do you pronounce it?
That's okay. Many people don't. Kapustinsky. So
Kapustinsky.
yes.
So Erika and I are going to be talking about our topic transformed this evening. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you guys some background on our group and just do some light housekeeping. Our mission here at Something to Chew On is to really connect, encourage, and grow women in their faith through the sharing of authentic God stories, like we're doing right now with Erika. It's so important to share our stories and to share our testimonies, because that's what helps people get through their testimony is prophecy. So
Yeah.
that's what we really try and do here. We also, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on our page, we have our public page. We have Encourage Mondays with Veronica Cruz, one of our leaders. We have, I'm so sorry, Connect Mondays, Encourage Wednesdays with myself, Jessica, and Grow Fridays with Alicia. And we share videos and stories about our topic of the month. That's all found on our page, which is different from our group. So the page is public. Everything that's there you can share however you want to, but our group is private, and that's where I like to call it our Vegas. So what happens there stays there. That's where we share our personal things. If you have prayer requests or testimonies from a previous prayer request or anything like that, goes there. And that's where this will be. But we will also, if our speaker, Erika, is okay with that, we'll also share it onto our public page so you can share it beyond that. So our topic this month is transformed. And our verse for that is Romans 12:2, which says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." I don't know about you guys, but I grew up on NIV. And so I read it, and a lot of times I'm like, yeah, okay, yep, I know it. It doesn't really hit me. So I like to read different translations. I go on to Bible Gateway and I pull up one verse and I read like a ton of different translations to really let it sink in with me and see like, what is the Lord really trying to say through this? So with this verse, I really loved the Message translation, which says, "Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit in without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out." Whew. Don't become so well adjusted that your culture can fit, that you can fit into your culture without even thinking.
Yeah.
That's heavy. I am definitely guilty of that. So we're working on transformation this month, and Erika, our speaker today, has a little bit of of what's the word I'm looking for? Experience in that area.
There you go. There you go.
So Erika is post-abortive, a wife and a mother to 5. She began sharing her story from a public platform in May of 2019 after she walked through healing from her 2 abortions that she had in 2015. She shares her story as a way to empower women to choose life through the facts about the abortion industry and help women who have had abortions walk through healing. Currently, she's in the stages of beginning her own nonprofit to meet the needs of more women who are post-abortive. So thank you so much for joining us, Erika.
Yes, it's so exciting. I love it. I love it. I can't wait. Are you ready for me to dive in?
Yeah, let's dig in. Let's do it.
Oh, well, like Jessica said, my name is Erika, and I am just so excited to be here. I know it's virtual, and thank goodness for technology and the fact that we're able to connect in this way. It's so exciting. Transform, that is something that God has done in my heart over the last few years, and it has really been just such a humbling experience for me, and something that I am so thankful for, to be able to, for example, just sit here tonight and be able to share with you the things that God has carried me through, is amazing. Because when I look back at who I was in that season of life, I never thought I would get to this place, but it's through God just transforming me from the inside out. And like that verse had said about our minds, that's really where it began. My mind, my heart, and everything else just kind of flowing from that. So back in 2015, I had 2 abortions within 6 months of each other. I was going through a divorce from a very unhealthy, emotionally unstable marriage that I was in at that time. I had 4 children already that I was taking care of. I have been a stay-at-home mom for almost 14 years. Wow. And so I was still at that time as well. My life had really just crumbled very quickly from underneath my feet, even for a few years leading up to that place. And I remember being in that season of life in about 2014 to 2015, looking all around me, almost just completely confused as to what was going on. I had no idea how I got there. You know, you kind of do, because you made decisions, but at the same time, you also have no idea, like, what happened. I didn't want to be this person. I didn't want to be making these decisions, but I was at a place where the enemy just really had a hold on me, and I was completely unaware of it at the time. It was May 8th of 2015 when I went to Planned Parenthood for my first abortion. I was 7 weeks along. I was not informed of what to expect. I was not allowed to see my ultrasound. I was told to just take some pills and to just go home. And so I thought at the time, okay, that seems okay. You know, up until that moment, or I shouldn't say that moment, I should really say that season. I was raised in the church. I would say that I was pro-life, but I think that was more so because I was a Christian. And so I think that you kind of just say, like, yeah, I'm against abortion. Yeah. But it was never talked about in the church growing up. And it was something that was not talked about just in my life. So now I'm face to face with this decision that I made. And I had not wanted to make that, but was very much forced into that position where I felt like I really didn't have another option. I was too ashamed. I was too fearful to really talk about it bravely with somebody that I could trust. And so I figured I'll just do this. And so I really didn't think it was going to affect me. I didn't think it was going to be an issue. You know, the people at Planned Parenthood told me that it was fine, that I would be able to just move on with my life, that I would be okay, that I would have just a little bit of cramping, but like it was not a big deal. So I walked to my car to drive home, and I said, okay. And I never thought that day would just change my entire life. It was the most traumatic 72 hours that I've ever experienced. Wow. And I just witnessed things that really shifted a lot for me in that moment. It was a pretty much overnight experience where I immediately felt like the most terrible person and mother ever known. I fell into a very, very deep state of depression, and I was already struggling with depression because of what was going on in my marriage at the time. And so this really just, it just added to it way more than I thought. And I just began to spiral out of control. I could not really take care of my kids at the time. It was so hard because I looked at them and I was so ashamed of what I had done. I just couldn't take care of just the normal everyday tasks anymore. And about 2 weeks later, I just packed bags and I left. I left my kids and I left my home. And I just thought that I deserved that. I deserved to not have anything good ever. I was very suicidal. And I started drinking heavily, and it just pretty much everything fell apart for me very, very quickly. And about a month later, I moved in with a guy friend, and a couple months later, I found myself pregnant, and I thought that was great. It filled this void that I felt. And I wouldn't come to understand until, 4.5 years later that it was because of the first abortion and what that kind of did. And I'll kind of get to that in a few minutes. But I found myself pregnant and I was very excited. I thought it would solve all of my problems and then I would be okay and life would kind of come together. I wasn't really going to church at this time. I was too ashamed. I felt not worthy of God's love. I didn't feel like I deserved to go to church. Like I wasn't worthy of that. I didn't just completely abandon my kids. I only left for about 2 weeks to try to figure out some things. And so I started seeing them again, but my relationship with my kids really changed. I felt like I needed to really, really strive to be super mom and just get it all together and make sure that every choice that I made with my kids was perfect and that I never overreacted and that I never yelled at them. Because if I ever did lose it even slightly, I immediately went into this hole, and I just believed all of these lies from the enemy that I just was not good enough as a mom and I didn't deserve to be their mom.
Yeah.
And these lies just continued to really pile up on top of each other. And that.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. We're still recording.
Oh, we are. Okay, good. Well, that's a good thing. Okay, well, I don't know where that lost me. But hey, this is technology, so this is going to happen.
It is.
That's okay.
Oh no.
Began to just create layer after layer after layer. And so through this season, it was November of 2015. And I should say it was more late October of 2015. When I began to really question if I really wanted to be a mom to this child, if I wanted to have this child, I started realizing that this baby was not going to replace anything or solve anything. My life was the worst it had ever been, at the lowest point it had ever been. And I did not surround myself with church and people that would encourage me or influence my decision well. And so the people that I chose to surround myself with were people that said, just get an abortion. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And, you just kind of start to say, you kind of convince yourself. It's a way of just numbing all these emotions in your heart of saying, okay. And I really believed at that time that I was doing the best thing by not going through with my pregnancy, thinking that, the baby didn't deserve to have me as a mom because I was already this terrible mom and I just didn't deserve anything that would end up with a happy ending. So I went to a different Planned Parenthood in November 2015. And, some may think, well, she already had one abortion, so I'm sure she knows what, is going on. And I didn't. Still, nobody counseled me. Nobody let me see ultrasound pictures. I ended up being farther along than I thought I was by almost 3 weeks. And so the abortion was different. And this one, because of this abortion procedure, this is what put me into, I mean, I can just sit here and say so honestly that if it were not for God intervening in my life, I wouldn't be sitting here, because it really put me into a place where I felt like I could not go on anymore. I just felt so empty. And I was 14 weeks at that time. And I went home later in the day. And the next day I had my kids, and I kind of just jumped back into life. But deep inside was this, it was just another thing that the enemy used to just say, see, you're not good enough.
Right.
This is who you are. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible mother. And I believed all of these things. I believed it so much that I handed over custody in the divorce to my ex-husband for my 4 kids to live with him, because I did not feel like I deserved to have them with me. My life just kept going downward, more and more and more. And I just didn't even recognize myself. But at the same time, and this is what is so incredible about God, and how he just is always faithful and always there and always just, just right beside us. Like, he doesn't leave us and forsake us because of decisions that we make. Like, we're the ones that choose to walk away, but he was always there. And I didn't know it at the time. I definitely know it now when I look back.
Yeah.
But he was there, and I felt that in my heart, even though I had no idea what was really going on, because I was so divided in how I felt. But everything within me just wanted to be free. I just wanted to live a life that honored the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I couldn't say that because I didn't deserve that, because of the choices that I was making. And so it wasn't until 2018 that God met me, and it was so incredible. Still at this point in my life, nobody knew about the abortions, not even my current husband. He didn't even know. I swore to myself I would never tell anybody. And it's so funny, because I feel like when I said that, God was like, that's really funny, because actually, but that's just how God works. And he can use the most broken pieces of our story and turn them into something so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2018, at that time, I started volunteering at a pregnancy center. And it was funny how God just kind of brought all this to be. And it happened to be at a pregnancy center that my grandmother started 30 years prior.
Oh, wow.
And so people kind of knew who I was. And I just thought it was really cool to kind of work there a little bit, knowing my grandma started it. And I was told that there is going to be a support after abortion training. So this way, if we went to this training, could help other women who have had an abortion walk through healing. And it was all God, because I had not really thought about my abortions because I didn't want to. I put them way under the rug. And I felt like God said, you need to go. This is what you need to do. And I said, okay, sure. Why not? That sounds great. And I went to this training, and the woman who was speaking is herself post-abortive. And she shared this powerful testimony. I mean, just, it blew me away. I couldn't even believe that it was the same woman standing in front of me, just sharing her story, right? We're talking about transformation, and this is pretty much what I experienced. But she talked so openly about her abortions, and I had never witnessed that before, ever. Mm. And so without any hesitation, I just stood up and I said, I've had an abortion. And I looked around the room and I was like, oh my God. Whoa, okay. Like, that was interesting, because I had never told anybody. And now I'm telling a room full of strangers about the fact that I had an abortion. And I sat back down, and I felt the Holy Spirit just touch my shoulder. And he said, this is why you're here. This is what I've called you to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. And I literally just said right then and there, I'm all in. Like, had no idea what this was going to look like. I knew there were a lot of people I needed to tell. But I was like, okay, I'm in. And as soon as I made that decision to say, God, I'm in, I don't know what it is, and I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm ready.
Mhm.
And I started this journey of sharing with people and telling my husband. And through doing that, God started opening more and more and just peeling back these layers, layer after layer after layer. And in those layers were all these lies that I believed over the years, and all this brokenness that I had felt, which is why I would have had, this abortion, why I had then had that abortion. And God just started unpacking all of this. And it was incredible. And it was very overwhelming, but it was so good for my heart, because a lot of this was just me and God, which was so beautiful, because I was able to really work through things knowing that it was him. It was just me and him working through this together. And in the spring of 2019, early spring, I decided to be a part of a post-abortive healing program at this pregnancy center that I had been volunteering at.
Mhm.
But I wasn't going to walk through this program. I told myself that I was fine, because I was like, no, I'm good. Like, God and I have been talking about this thing and I'm fine. But the director of the center at the time said, well, if you want to help other women, you have to actually walk through healing yourself. And I remember like going home that night to my husband, and I was like, no, I don't. I'm fine. Who needs healing? And so it was a Tuesday night, and I sat in this room of these women, and a few of them are post-abortive. A couple of them were just leading the class. And let me tell you that for the next 8 weeks after that, I never left with a dry eye, and God transformed my life in a way that I mean, I've committed to spending the rest of my life sharing about, because it really changed my life, everything. I had no idea that my abortions impacted so many areas of my life. I didn't know that it impacted my relationship with my kids at the time. I didn't know that it was impacting my marriage. I didn't know that it was impacting my relationship with my family, or just who I was or how I viewed myself. I didn't know. But as soon as God just lifted the veil and started showing me things, it was almost like I was able to quickly rewind through all like those years and see all those pieces come together and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it was the first time. And like I said earlier, I grew up in the church. Like I know about God. I knew about God. I could quote scripture.
I know the NIV. We're good.
Right? Whoa, yeah, right here. But it was not until that moment, it was a Tuesday night at the end of April of 2019, that I, for the first time, understood God's grace. And it was just like this switch went on, and I finally understood it. And I understood it because I was sobbing this one night during this class. I mean, just sobbing over the fact that I chose to have an abortion, like really understanding what that meant, that I chose to end a life of a baby that was growing within me. And I did that. But it was so different than how I had felt and how I had viewed it prior, because if I admitted that to myself, there was so much shame attached to that. Yeah. And there was so much guilt that was not from the Lord. This time, this encounter that I had with God was so different, because I felt that, but I could feel his embrace. I could think about my abortions and where I was in that room at that time, and I could see God there. I could see him, and he would give me, it was a dream I had one night during this healing program, where he had given me the names of my babies and showed me who they were in heaven. And it was just absolutely incredible. It was such a big part of my healing. And God said, I was there with you in the room. I was on your left side and you were crying, and I just took your baby up into heaven. And it just wrecked me. But in a way that it drew me so close to God. to understanding what he did on the cross for me in just a whole new way, because I didn't just view it like you would just read it in the Bible, you know. I
Right.
think it's so easy to just read that and say, yeah, I know that Jesus died on the cross for my sins and blah, 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 blah. But this was this inner transformation of, oh my gosh, like he went to the cross for that.
Mm.
But not only that, this is what blew me away, was the fact that way before I was ever born, and when God sent his son, and when Jesus went to the cross for my sins, he already knew the sins that I was going to commit. He knew that I was going to make that choice. But it's not like God said, or, you know, Jesus said, well, forget her. She is a major problem person. And I just don't want to do it. You know, no, like he still saw, and he saw me as worthy and loved enough,
Yeah.
deserving enough to go to the cross anyways, and to still choose me, to still love me, to still walk beside me. And the same goes for any of us.
Yeah.
But me having that realization that God still chose me, I couldn't stop crying. It was so refreshing to just finally understand that,
Mm.
because it was understanding that in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Having that transformation in my mind. Now it was connecting to my heart.
Mm.
Then I was able to finally be free of all of this shame and everything that I had carried for so long as a result of my abortions, to finally say, like, I can breathe again. I am set free from this. And now, God, I will do whatever you want me to do. And it was the last class that we had before, you know, that was over and we were just kind of go back into life. I went home and I was praying over just what God would have. And I have this journal and I will carry it for the rest of my life, of just everything that God would speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he had said, you're going to start a ministry to help women who've had an abortion. And I said, okay. I mean, I was at a place where there was no way I was going to say no to God.
Yeah.
You know, this was too good. I did not want to stay silent. I wanted to start sharing my story. I wanted to bring light to the abortion industry. And I wanted to really just love on other women who had been impacted by abortion. I wanted to really shift the way it was talked about. And I wanted to get the churches involved. And I really, really wanted women to know that they are deserving of good, that they are worthy, that they are loved.
Yeah.
And that just because they made that choice, it does not define who they are. And that was what I was living with for so long, was I let it define who I was.
Yeah.
But that's not what God says. It's not. That's why there's grace, you know? And so ever since then, it's just been amazing and an incredible journey. And God has just brought so many women to me. And I know that's all him, and all the glory goes back to him for that. And I've had some really great opportunities to speak at a college and pro-life groups and, you know, stuff like this. And it's really, really, really exciting to see what God does when we allow him to really work and transform things within us. And like you had said at the beginning, and, you know, sharing our testimonies is, I forget the word that you used. It was so good. I don't even know if I remember it.
It's prophecy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's so true, because I don't know. I am so thankful, because in me sharing my story just so publicly on social media, I love it. I really, really do, because what it has done has opened the doors for other women to feel comfortable enough to talk about this. And I know that's what God wants for them. I know that he wants them to walk in healing and freedom. Like, that's not from God for them to carry that shame and that weight. That's what the enemy wants. He wants women who have had an abortion to really just sit in that. That's not what God wants. I mean, it's possible to have just such hope and healing. It's possible to think about your babies that have been lost to abortion and have joy, and because they're in heaven with God and we're going to see them again one day. And so that's my story in a nutshell. And yeah, so
Thank you so much for sharing. That was so good. There were so many points that I loved. I love that the Lord took you back and
yeah,
was like, see, exactly, this is where I was with you. Like when you thought
yeah,
you were alone and when you thought that I had turned my back on you and you were doing the worst thing in the world and I was just done,
yeah,
that he wasn't. And I've actually had that in my life too, not with an abortion, but when I was going through a really tough time. I also grew up in the church, and I had a season of life that was not God at all. And when I came out of that, he did the same for me. He was like, this is where I sat. This is where I was. You thought you
yeah,
were alone, but you were not alone. It's
yeah,
that footprints in the sand that
yes,
it's
yes,
so true that he is right there with us. And I loved that you pointed that out. And I really hope that women listening will sit with the Lord and say, okay, show me where you were,
yeah,
because
yeah,
he is always there.
yeah,
And I love that you kept silent until someone spoke up.
yeah,
And you were like, okay, I can talk about this now. And that's
yeah,
what you've now turned around to do for other women.
right,
You're speaking up so that they can have the freedom to speak
yeah,
up as well.
right, yeah.
I
That
love
that
that.
was such a turning point for me, because um I had, like I said, I never experienced that before. So I didn't even have to give it a second thought. I
Yeah.
really felt like the Holy Spirit was behind me and just like pushed me, like, just go. But he knew this, he knew I was ready.
Mhm.
I definitely wouldn't have been able to say, yeah, I'm ready to talk about it. But
Right.
he knew I was ready to
So
just say
sneaky.
something, because even in saying it, already freedom was taking place,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
God was able to work because I got it out. It wasn't
Yeah.
like there in the dark where the enemy was able to kind of, keep prowling around that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And now it was brought out
Yeah.
and
You
people
started to
knew.
poke holes in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. So good. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing with us tonight.
You're
Um,
so welcome.
So our next, a little bit of housekeeping before we end here. Our next speaking event is on October 22nd. So be sure to tune into that one. That will also be on the topic of transformation. Our upcoming topics are the best yes, salvation stories, loving difficult people, and a
I
God
don't know why I laughed at that.
and a God of laughter.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Perfect. So if any of these topics stick out to you and you'd like to be one of our speakers, please contact us. We would love to have you share your story. Um, Again, you please like both our page and our public page and our private group. Again, public page, everything that is there can be shared. Private group, everything that is there stays there. Nobody else sees it. Nobody else reads it. That's our Vegas. And don't forget to join us for our Grow Friday, which is going to be tomorrow after this is shown, as well as Connect Monday and Encourage Wednesday. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We so miss being able to gather as a group, but we are so happy that technology, even though it has its kinks, as we
Yeah.
discovered today, we're so thankful for technology to still be able to connect with you all. If you have any prayer requests or anything you want to talk to us about, or if you want to get in touch with Erika, reach out to us and we will make it happen. So that is all for us tonight. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.